Hello, this is Neil from iPaintGirls.com and happy Halloween everyone. So this is the end result of what I'm working toward. It came out really dark. It doesn't look that dark on my other monitor, but anyway, it just depends on the brightness of your monitor. So if it looks really funny, you might want to turn the brightness of your monitor up so you can see it better. Alright, so this is the end result, like I said, that I'm working toward. We're going to start here on the sketching process in just a second. So when I'm working on a sketch, what happened with the last werewolf drawing is I didn't have any idea where I was going with the pose or what was happening. I didn't do any warm-up sketches or anything, and so I kind of used that video as kind of a warm-up. And so this video is going to be kind of working off of that one, if you look at it that way. And I know I wanted a lot of to make a pose look more interesting, twist the torso, bend the torso, do stuff with the torso to kind of give character to your pose. And so that's what I did. I run out of space, so I keep shrinking it down until I can get all the parts I want on there. I decided to do this like forced perspective thing. What you're going to see I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to draw a line to meet the tips of the feet. That way I have an ending point where I know I want the feet to meet at. For now I just kind of put a generic head in there just if I know where it's going to be when I want to add the detail. So I continually to revise as I work along, change a little anatomy here and there, change the design and stuff when I think of something cool that will fit into it, I think. I kind of twisted the leg too much, the muscles, and so I end up kind of fixing that too. I made the calf too big, I changed that as well. See, that's the line I was talking about. If you draw a line where you want the feet to meet, it'll really help you. It helps me at least, so I imagine it'll help others as well. There I fixed his arm, made it larger. I'm also making his right hand on our left, way bigger. That way it's coming out toward us, kind of like this forced perspective thing. And it's kind of cool to do that. I like doing that to add more power to poses sometimes. And so I was trying to get the best of both worlds. I kind of wanted his this forward chest, but kind of sideways hips and stuff. And so I think this pose actually ends up working for the kind of stance I had in mind, what I was going for. It's one thing to get a stance in your mind. It's another thing to kind of execute it. Like to actually go, okay, this is how it looks cool, or this is the angle in which it looks cool at. Even if you're using like a 3D program or a doll, like one of those wooden dolls or something, sometimes it's hard to get it, to be just right and to get the angle just right that looks the best. So it's not always a problem with just drawing. Sometimes this is a problem with, like, take a wooden doll and try to make it in the pose you want it to be in, and then see how hard it might be sometimes. So I had the arm way wrong. It's good to to learn and memorize the inside of the arm, the outside of the arm, the back side of the arm, and the forward of the arm. Those are the main types of ways in which you're going to be drawing the arm. And if you memorize how they look from those different angles, which doesn't take much practice, then it really makes how much time it takes you to draw something and make it look cool much quicker. I kind of like the way this face turns out. You can kind of see that at the end and the beginning of the video. It turns out kind of cool. I wanted more of a beastly monster face. I don't want to just look like a wolf's head on a man's body. That's not what I want. So that's what I was trying to avoid. I end up doing this kind of cool. I raise his head and make it smaller, and I do this big kind of mane of hair in his back. And I thought that would be kind of cool. And it'd be kind of cool too, like see him from a side view or see him from the back maybe. But I might actually do a side view of this character. I went with more of bird claws for his feet. I just thought it looked cool. I didn't want to do the typical, wolf looking. I wanted more monster look, so I kind of incorporated some birdness into him to get an overall monster feel. So I'm just kind of sketching in like where everything's going to be, and in the background there's going to be some trees and a moon behind him lighting him up with backlighting and stuff. So one thing when you're working on a whole composition like this is to think about the lighting, how it's light up the character and everything. And I wanted a lot of rim lighting on him, so that's why I did the moon right behind him. Also, the moon right behind him means I can make him very dark, and he'll stand out like a silhouette with the brightness behind him. But another thing also you want to consider is this, where it's at. Draw like a tic-tac-toe symbol on your painting, and then have the main focus of your character being one of those four squares. Or rather, if you draw a tic-tac-toe, then it's going to be on one of those four crosshairs. and that's to be your central focus point. And so in this case, it's kind of his face. That's the central focus point in the big moon. And the way it's kind of poses sort of kind of brings your eye back around to that focus point. I didn't really follow the rule of like 3 focal points or really even 2 focal points to keep bringing it back, but the way I kind of designed his hand kind of brings you back to his face, so that kind of works. What I'm doing here is I'm just kind of sketching with a size 5 brush set to opacity and size to pin pressure. And sometimes I do this, so it's more like a comic book type way, where I'm kind of shading more of a comic book type style. And then as I start coloring and stuff, then I'll start adding more kind of painterly, details and stuff like that. And sometimes it's good to start that way. It kind of saves a lot of time. Also, starting in black and white really helps you nail your values, and then you can use soft light brushes and stuff to add in some color. And also, it has a whole different feel to it when you work that way. When you add color onto black and white, or even onto a monochromatic like I did with the dragon painting, it just adds a certain feel that I don't think I can achieve it with just working with straight color. So I like the way it looks. It's different. Let's just put it that way. It's different, and I don't know how else to achieve it. So I like it. It's a different style. It's also a lot faster, so it's good for time. It's very good for concept art. Your client's like, hey, I need something right away, and then you can bust it out and in color and it looks cool, so they can get an idea of how the character's supposed to look and everything. So there I go with that mane of hair coming off his back. Thought that was kind of cool. It also means I can get away with not drawing much, not really having to draw back muscles if I ever drew this character from the back. He might appear in the comic book. Not saying he's going to, but you never know. There's a lot of weird creatures and monsters and end of all, so that as the story progresses. And here, I'm using a very stock brush. I think it's called like a chalk brush that comes with Photoshop. It's really cool to get some texture backgrounds in, and I even use it to paint him, to get that texture on him as well. It's a really useful brush. It's a cool brush. It's fast way to get texture, and it just feels really good when you're painting with it. So to get your main composition down, the main shapes, like the main silhouetted shapes, it works very well. Then you can go in and use the brush smaller and smaller and smaller, then finally go in and refine with detail brushes. So I decided I want a lot of rim lighting on him. And what's going to happen is I need to really put that back leg into the background, and at first I have way too much light on it and everything. So what I end up doing is I end up painting it into the background by painting his back leg the color of its surroundings. In this case, it's going to be the color of that water reflecting on his right there. And I just paint that color right into his right leg, almost like silhouetting his leg, taking out most detail. And it's really cool because it really pushes the leg into the background. It's just a neat trick to do. So what are you guys going to be doing for Halloween? Leave some comments. Let me know if you're going to be going to a party, like a house party, or if you're going to be going to a club. I'm going to a club. If you're going to be going to like a Halloween rave or something, maybe. What are you going to be doing for Halloween? Are you actually going to be trick-or-treating? Are you still that young to get away with getting free candy? I'm going to be taking my friends, or my cousins, not my friend, she's a friend too, but my cousin's daughter trick-or-treating. We're all going to go to the mall. The mall's like, every store in the mall is like handing out candy, so that's kind of cool. And you can trust it, so if you're wondering where to take your kids, maybe check out your local mall. Your local mall might be doing it, and the candy will be safe that way. So the first thing I do is to add some color into the black and white, is I use color balance on the medium, shadows, and highlights. And what I like to do is use different colors for each one. So kind of blue for the shadows, kind of green for the midtones, and then kind of blues for the highlights, like cyan type blue. And then after that, I like to use a soft light brush and the color dodge brush, and mix up both of those brushes set to low opacity. And I added just a bunch of colors, man. I throw in the main colors I usually work with is red, the kind of bright pink, yellow, green, and blue. and I just kind of, and sometimes brown orange. I just kind of mix all those together, coloring over and over each one until I get a nice mix of colors. And when they blend over each other, you get a nice, cool colors that way. And then I desaturate it with a desaturated brush, or a brush set to desaturation mode, and I just pick a gray color and kind of a darker gray color to desaturate.